welcome back to Lunch Talks with Matt and Brendon. This is numero quattro at you, and we are going to this time do something a little bit different, and we're going to look at some of the things I mentioned before about the theories and stuff that I've kind of developed and put in here, and I'm just going to read them out, and then we can talk about them, and if we exceed the time limit, we can break it into multiple ones, whatever. But right now I have 7 of them, and these are just things that I've kind of started to think about, and I've made a connection, and it's like, it's a connection that I haven't seen somewhere else, you know what I mean? And so we'll start with number 1. It's called the efficiency threshold. And so I'm going to read verbatim what I have typed up, so that way it kind of helps us to see, all right, how much does what I type make sense, because I want it to make the most sense, that, if I were to write a book or something one day, that I could put it in and someone would understand what we're talking about. So it says, say for example you have a golf course that is not in good shape. The question is, why isn't the course in good shape? That is because the club doesn't have the expertise or the equipment to put it into good shape. Then, why doesn't the club have the expertise or the equipment to put it into good shape? That is because they don't have the money to pay for either. So why don't they have the money to pay for either? That is because they don't have enough people who play on the golf course, and they can't charge a very high green fee per player because it's not in good shape. And so then that asks, why don't they have enough people who are playing the course, and why can't they charge a very high green fee? That is because the course isn't in good shape. And so if you didn't exactly follow that, that's just a big cycle of, why is it not in good shape? Because they can't do it, because they don't have the money, because they don't have the people, and because it's not in good shape. So where was I? And so this course is deemed, under my idea, to be under the efficiency threshold. Thus, someone or something has to apply some amount of effort that will not be made back. This is expendable effort in order to fix that cycle. Say if someone comes into the situation with a $5 million donation, the course can now purchase the equipment and expertise to get the course in good shape in order to attract more people who will pay more money to play. So that means that the course is broken through the efficiency threshold and is now sustainable. In short, the efficiency threshold is a point between at which a sustainable or growing cycle becomes a degenerative cycle that will terminate or devolve into a worse cycle if left alone. This can be observed in the cyclic operation of anything, i.e. business, organization, or even psychological life. So pretty much the idea of that, to put it into simpler words, is looking at efficiency, and that's why I called it the efficiency threshold, because, and I don't know where the number is, like a percent efficiency is, but there's just a certain point that you can see, like, when people say, oh, it's, that business is hanging on,
Yeah.
it's because they're under the efficiency threshold, right? If they're hanging on, then that means that they're barely, holding it, and if it were to just continue doing what it's doing, it probably won't be sustainable, because eventually it's going to have to close. But if you say, man, that business is like booming, it's making so much money, that's above the efficiency threshold. It is sustainable. They don't really have, what they have to do is continue doing what they are doing, which means being, innovative and things like that. And I believe there's an efficiency threshold of psychological life that I had mentioned right at the end, because if you don't have the ability to sustain an awareness of what's around you, then I believe that's when you go under the efficiency threshold. And I actually am having an experience of breaking through that just recently, because listening to these podcasts and listening to me speak, and thinking of what are the the abilities of a good speaker, and listening to videos like from Aaron Marino on Alpha M about being a good speaker and how to not use filler words like I just did, saying things like that. That means that I'm under the efficiency threshold. I'm just trying to get by, thinking that I might even be doing all right, but I'm not at a point where I'm sharp, and if that's the way you want to see it, that when someone is sharp, they're above the efficiency threshold, and when they're just sluggish, they're not hitting things right, they're under it, and this is just something that I've seen, and I haven't really heard of much, but I see a very, very obvious pattern in anything that is cyclic, because if something has extra stuff put into the cycle, like in the golf course, then it can raise above it, or if I need to become more sharp in my psychological life, then I need to put effort into fixing it. Letting it be is not gonna it's not gonna fix it.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage anybody who hears this to do your own research after I say it. But 2 years ago, I did this project on Finland's education system versus our education system. What's wrong with our education system? Why does theirs work so well? Things like that. One point of research I came across, again, this was 2 years ago, so may have some things fuzzy, and it may not apply to all areas, but it said that educational systems, a lot of their money that goes into them comes from like property tax from their district. So if you look at somewhere that's in great poverty, if you can't get enough money to build a school, you don't get good education to the kids, who therefore don't go to college, get good jobs, and then they fall back into another cycle of poverty, and then they can't give their taxes to help that school grow better. I mean, if you look at, just Google image Beverly Hills High School, something like that, that place is immaculate. And then Google a high school in the Delta of Mississippi, and it's pretty sad.
Mm-hmm. And I guess you could see that as being, as poverty being under the efficiency threshold.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because unless there's some amount of effort, put into it, and that can be by a single person who is, super motivated and wants to get out of it and does get out of it by, working day and night and doing everything that they possibly can to get out of poverty, that they might get out of it, and so that amount of effort it won't be made back. The only thing that that will be benefited is the cycle. The cycle will become better. The person not necessarily, but the cycle will become better. So that effort won't be made back. Same thing as with like the ACA, and trying to administer healthcare to everyone, and the idea that you can't just tell a poor person to work harder, because that's not necessarily going to fix poverty, but if you, and I'm not saying that the solution is to give money to them, but if you were to give that family, that single mom family that is in a poor area in the center of Memphis, that is ridden with gun violence and theft and all kinds of different crimes, if you instill some kind of amount of wealth to someone and say, hey, I understand that you as a mom, you're working 2 jobs, you're working 60 hours a week for minimum wage, you're making on that maybe $20,000-$30,000 a year by yourself. You've got 2 kids at home that when you're away, what are they going to do in that crime-ridden area? They might get into that kind of stuff. She can't do anything about that because she can't be home to help them. She's going to be at work, so she can't go home and teach them how to do the right thing. And so, but if you were to essentially supplement her income so she doesn't have to work, and I'm not honestly not saying that if we were to supplement everyone's income to where they wouldn't have to work, that it would be a good system, because that just doesn't work. But I'm saying that if you gave her the money to where she didn't have to work, she could be home helping her kids, be raised into a good society. She could get them out of poverty to where the cycle for them is going to be in a better place, like you said, to where they can pay taxes and maybe get the situation, fixed. That cycle breaks, to break through the efficiency threshold. And it's something that I think we need to address as a nation of what are we going to do with poverty, because it really is a cycle that it's damn near impossible, to get out.
Absolutely. And you really can't just say that woman is lazy.
Right.
I mean, if you look at somebody who's working in the spots for the Chinese workers who build the iPhones and the Mac products and things like that, they're working ridiculous hours, insanely hard. They live on the compound where they build the stuff. Work conditions are so bad, they have built nets on the sides of the buildings to catch people who are jumping off. That's how bad it is. And these are real people, living people. They're alive, who have, as just as much as you talked about in the last one, real value, just like ourselves. And we just choose to call them lazy. Like, I mean, that's kind of sad. Like, they're working so hard, and what's funny is that they're actually living in a communist country. So just as you said, communism, fascism can actually reverse back and be part of the same thing. Communism, like, it pushes up the idea of the proletariat, the little guy. How are those little people being helped? And so, if we can find the best aspects of all of these things to help people who are in need, to give aid to anyone who can't make it by themselves and is in a terrible situation, I think that would be good. Without what do you call it? Without rewarding laziness, but trying to allow everyone to have a good quality of life. We all have that, just like that TED Talks video that you showed our biology class, where the guy was like, everyone has the right to be able to exercise. What was it?
That every human life should have the right to overcome disabilities.
Yeah.
And that the human body cannot be broken. And in other words, the person cannot be broken, but the technology to fix the person is broken.
Yeah. It could be the same way. These people aren't broken people. They're not. A lot of them aren't lazy people. It's just the system is so broken that we live in an era where if you were born in a way and you were taught. Oh, okay. So I've been watching a lot of stuff on the Westboro Baptist Church recently, and the stuff you hear the kids say and the stuff you hear the adults say that were brought up in that environment, it's really made me start thinking. These people are repeating crazy, out of the box stuff. And it made me realize how easy it is to raise a person and just feed them ideas that aren't even real. And all you have to do is block off the influx of other information, which is why the internet has been so wonderful, because it allows people to understand things from different environments, cultures, whatever, modes of thinking. If you block that off, you can get people to believe some weird stuff. So if somebody's growing up and they believe that the most important thing is what's on TV and stuff like that, I don't know. I think we need to have, I said this to you earlier, but if everyone had the amount of class mobility that you and I have, that would be a good system. Because, neither of us are poor. I've always had enough food to eat. I have a good education. I go to a good school with good influences, and I have the ability, if I want to. If I wanted to do it from ninth grade on, I could have chosen to. I'm going to go to college for free because I'm going to work hard enough to get a free scholarship. If everyone had that base level that you and I have, I think that's where we need to start. Give that base level, and then from that point on, whoever is so-called lazy, it could actually be a psychological thing, like they're depressed. Depressed people, if you're depressed, it's hard to brush your teeth. That's how bad it is.
It is. And I'm gonna go on a couple of things that you were saying, with what you were saying about communism and fascism, coming together, and how that's how that communistic society is, or communist society is, pushing up that person, that little person. People who say that America is not a place for socialists, and for communists, that is, all of those people should be kicked out, because, we're a free country and everything. you know, there's a certain degree to that is valid, but at the same time, we have to look at who's being helped, and I don't completely understand the viewpoint that a little bit of socialism is a bad thing, or that a little bit of capitalism is a bad thing. I don't understand how one person can see one side and not the other. That capitalism is the only way, and that socialism is a bad way, because we are the least socialist country in the world. Really, of at least the main first world countries, other than really Nazi Germany. That's about it.
Yeah.
And it's not the government who's running us. It's the money. It's the big name corporations that are able to pretty much do whatever they want because they have the money.
Who have passed up the efficiency threshold like big time.
Yes. Yeah. They don't have any problem being efficient. And doing what they need to do. And by the same token, maybe they as a person aren't past the efficiency threshold. Psychologically, but. When you look at all the other first world countries, saying, oh, well, why do we need to be socialist? We don't want to be like, China. Well, we're not trying to be communist. Maybe trying to, impose a little bit of socialism. And say, well, look at Britain. They don't have socialism. Wrong. They're much more socialist. Same thing with Canada. And same thing with, almost all of the European Union. I mean, you look around the world, and especially Scandinavia, there's a lot more socialism around, and especially in New Zealand and Australia, where there are higher, bases of society. Society is better. Education is better. Everything seems to be better from a societal standpoint. Now, do they have a huge booming economy? No, because they're not, 300 million strong. And they're not the base for all the big businesses that we've been, but can you still buy food, and can you still buy iPhones and electronics and furniture and houses and heating and air conditioning and and this and that and big TVs and workout machines and and clothes and beds and all these things that we still have? Yeah, you can buy all of that. Now, are you going to get 1 day shipping from Amazon Prime? Maybe not. Might be 2 day,
Yeah.
But we are the least socialist, country out there. And so I don't think that it's necessarily a horrible thing or a horrible idea of saying, let's say, impose this little bit of amount of socialism, kind of like when FDR said, hey, let's have Social Security.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, I would say. On that, and on another part too, you had said that these kids with the Westboro Baptist Church, are saying these crazy things. I specifically remember someone telling me and being kind of indoctrinated when I was young, saying that me being a middle class white man, I am in the worst, at the absolute worst position by race. For any person in society, that because it's going to be the poor black person that is going to be the head of society when I grow up, and that's what I believed. I believed that I was in I had a problem with that I wasn't going to be put up on a pedestal. That it was going to be the black people put up on a pedestal, and the more I've looked into it, the more I've understood. Right now, I'm not doing too bad.
Yeah.
I've got a decent living. I've got a car. I've got food on the table. Great education and great path into college. I don't know where that problem is coming from, but with that, I'm looking at the fact that the black population is a minority in America. I mean, less than 20% of America is African American. And over 50% is white. And it's interesting, I saw a trend saying that by the mid 2020s that there will not be a majority race anymore, that the whites will get under 50%, which is interesting. But anyways, that a majority or a minority black population is the majority incarceration rate. It's the majority poverty rate, and so how is it that I'm going to be more affected by the new society, or the new government and everything. All these nasty liberals that are going to ruin the country and make this a black supremacy. That's not what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get it to where we're not a white supremacy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been subject to that indoctrination kind of thing.
I want to show a quick video to the audience.
Okay.
It's a few minutes. I guess I'll start out by saying so we say like free enterprise and capitalism. It's good for all people because all people have the ability to do things. But we don't necessarily think about our effects on other countries. For example, our effects on China, the communist country that's giving us our phones for a capitalist country, and all these things where the economy actually controls the government. The economy controls military actions, where we don't do anything about the genocides of Rwanda, but we care about the countries who have oil. And so I want to go into this YouTube video by Key and Peele. Love these guys.
Oh yes.
Key and Peele, Democracy.
Okay.
That's what the video is called.
Key and Peele.
It's really short.
And before we get to that,
Where is it? There it is. Yeah.
This one. Right
Yeah.
here? All right. Before we get to that, I will mention what I was going to get to, and that was when I say things like, "Hey, we might need a little bit more socialism in this country," and then a lot of people might say, "Oh, well, we were never founded on socialism. Why do we need socialism? How have we gotten to the place where we are now without socialism?" And I say, gotten to the place where we are now to be the least socialist country, the highest incarceration rate per capita, the highest incarceration rate by minority, the most amount of poverty of any first world country, on and on and on, of all these societal problems. Yeah, we got a great economy. That's great. But like you said, why are we, just, honing in on that single, idea that the economy is what's important, and not actually creating a society of better people. But anyways, now we can get to this democracy.
Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure and an honor to meet you and your people. The U.S. government supports you in every possible way, ideologically, of course. However, we cannot offer any military aid at this time.
With all due respect, Ambassador, we need more than that.
We are dealing with terrorism on a daily basis.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Warlords overrun villages.
Yes, that's regrettable.
Rapes, tortures, all manner of human atrocities.
That's really sad. But the U.S. military is simply spread too thin. We can't afford another intervention at this time.
But what we could use your help with, really, is protecting our vulnerable, plentiful, and newly discovered oil reserves.
Oil? Excuse me 1 second. Operation Golden Eagle is a go. Welcome to democracy.
We also have natural gases.
Oh, yes, lots of it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, wow, that is funny. So yeah, ideologically we support that, and then we don't go in and help them until there's something, that we need from there. And I mean, you look at the Middle East, and the oil that we have been getting from the Middle East for a long time. That's our primary reason why we're so, entrenched in it. And we did what we did with Iraq, and then now we have ISIL, and yada yada yada, big, these huge problems that were absolutely, caused by our intervention in, Iraq. Creating a void, when you take down the government, something has to take place, something has to fill it, and so that's what's that's what's going on right now. And it's interesting watching what happened with Israel in the 1950s, after everything with Nazi Germany, and pretty much imposing Israel into their little area, which we can talk about another time. But that was very interesting to see how we kind of thrust our fist into there and said, here, we're going to put the Israelites back here. And that has caused huge. I mean, they're still bombing each other today. You've got the Palestinians and Jordanians and the Syrians and all that are predominantly Muslim, and then you just impose a whole bunch of Jews, and it just doesn't work. And what's happened now is you've got a state where the Israel state, the government, the country is suppressing all of the Palestinians and creating a horrible society for Palestinians, and they're just trying to take back what was theirs, but then we say, well, it shouldn't be yours, we put this here, and yada, yada, yada. Welcome to democracy.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very enlightening video to show. But that will conclude our, what was it? That was
fifth
edition of our... Was it fifth or fourth? That was fifth. Okay, that was fifth.
Wait, was it?
I think it was fifth. I think I might have said fourth at the beginning. I don't know. This is either the fourth or the fifth.
This is our second
edition.
one today,
Mm-hmm.
which would make it our fourth, because we have done 2 before.
Okay, so this is the fourth going into the fifth
Yes. Yeah.
edition. Lunch Talks with Matt and Brendon. See you the next time, whenever that is, fifth or whatever.